Chapter 3. It was what most of Gotham's citizens thought was a typical afternoon in life of Bruce Wayne, Playboy. A quick stop at a gallery opening, where he ignored the photographs on display, but managed to get the phone number of the pretty receptionist. Lunch at a hip downtown bistro. A dash out to the country club, where he decided not to play golf, but instead chased the female employees around with his clubs. A trip back to central Gotham, waving passersby from the window of his steel-gray Lamborghini Murcielago. Bruce drove the Lamborghini into the basement garage of the tall building he currently lived in, managed to knock over a Vespa scooter on the way to his parking lot, paid the Vespa's owner twice what it would cost to replace it, stashed the Lamborghini next to the other Wayne vehicle, a Rolls-Royce, and rode the private elevator to his penthouse. There, he found that Alfred had company. He and Rachel Dawes were perched on stools in the kitchen, facing each other across a marble countertop, clutching mugs of what Bruce was sure was tea. Deep in conversation. Both looked at him when he entered, and he called out a greeting. "What brings you uptown?" he asked Rachel. "Or do you come downtown? I can never remember where that office of yours is." "Uptown, as you well know." "I thought you'd be busy. Middle of a weekday and all." "The case I was trying to plead is bargained. No court time needed." "Tell me, is that good or bad? This law stuff. So confusing." "You don't have to do your act with me, Bruce. In fact, I wish you wouldn't. It annoys me." "Sorry," Bruce said. "I hope so." "What are you and Alfred up to?" "I came to see you." "Okay. Shall we go into the living room?" "Here's fine." "More tea?" Alfred asked. "That would be nice," Rachel said. Alfred refilled Rachel's cup and poured one for Bruce, then excused himself. Bruce looked at Rachel across the counter. She had aged, but no one could complain about that. She had always been cute. Now she was, by any reasonable criterion, beautiful. Beautiful and strong and ferocious, compassionate and brave. "What you're doing is wrong," she said. "Wrecking sports cars? Dating Debantes? What exactly?" "Please, Bruce. No masquerade. Not with me." "Fair enough. There's something else. I'd like you to abandon your other masquerade." "Which one would that be?" "The Batman." Bruce hesitated and sipped tea, then set down the mug. "Okay. What's your objection to my new life?" "I think you've begun to enjoy it. Too much. Oh, I'm sure you've constructed an elaborate rationalization. You're saving Gotham, etc., etc., etc. I'm afraid that sooner or later, you're going to become addicted to it, and that will cause you to cross the line." "You're afraid I'll kill someone?" "Of course, someone to die. What you'd call collateral damage. And you'll rationalize, tell yourself that it was necessary, it couldn't be helped, you were only following the dictates of the moment. Does that sound familiar to you?" "No. Should it?" "You should read history books. Then you might recognize some of the excuses war criminals offer." "I'll be careful." "You'll try to be careful, at least at first. But you'll be creating situations that you won't be able to control. Situations in which people panic. I deal with cops and crooks all day, every day. I know what can happen to a person." "With all due humility, I'm not just any person." "You're richer than most. You're also incredibly intelligent, athletic, handsome, determined, motivated. But you swim in the same gene pool as we lesser mortals. You're fallible, and you're going to fail, and someone will die. Then you'll either destroy yourself with remorse or become a homicidal sociopath. I don't know which would be worse." "Sometimes violence is necessary." "Yes, to save your life or someone else's life, but not as policy. You're proposing to use violence to solve enormously complex problems. And when has that ever worked? And it's been tried. Oh, has it been tried? Remember the old definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result?" "Rachel, I promise you, I won't go off the deep end." "I think you will." "You know how much I respect your opinion, but this time, you're wrong." "We'll see then, won't we?" "I guess we will." Alfred was feeling a bit guilty. He shouldn't have been listening to the private conversation, but if information passed between those two, he had to know what it was. And now he did. and now he was disturbed because he shared Rachel's misgivings. He wasn't as alarmed as she obviously was, but he tended Bruce Wayne's wounds, always trying to joke about them to lighten the moment, and he'd observed the subtle changes in Bruce since his return from his adventures abroad and his time with Ra's al Ghul. Of course, Bruce was no longer the bright, charming child he'd been when he and Alfred met, and people did change as they age. Perhaps the traits Alfred was observing were simply the result of Bruce getting older, but he still couldn't help being bothered. When she got up to leave, he escorted Rachel to the door, told her that he would see her soon, and went to see how Bruce was enjoying his tea. The Joker saw the bus, about a block away. Was this great or what? An old lady waiting near the curb. It would be a matter of perfect timing, but the Joker loved that kind of challenge. He stood directly behind the old lady. The bus came closer, 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 just a few feet away. The Joker let it pass. Then he tapped the old lady on the shoulder and handed her a $100 bill.